It's the SKOR North Twins Show.
All right, SKOR North Twins Show. Extra innings. Been a while for extra innings. Yeah. We've only had, front office shakeups, coaching shakeups, hot stove season. No, this is not the Angels show where we'd be breaking down Travis d'Arnaud signing with the Angels. I still think this might be an active baseball hot stove, and here we are. The Twins don't have much money to spend, but that's not what this episode is about today necessarily. Today we're gonna talk a little bit more about the decision for Derek Falvey being named president to the team, Dave St. Peter stepping down, what this means for the rest, Jeremy Zoll getting the GM job. We had a scoop session, emergency kind of scoop session with Doogie today where we just instantly reacted. Myself and Judd were in the Twins clubhouse this afternoon. We just came back and figured we would give you guys a little bit more of an update on what we learned from these kind of informal press conferences that took place at One Twins Way. As always, hit the like button, subscribe button here on the SKOR North Twins Show YouTube channel. Appreciate everyone that supported the show during the season. Content still lives on in the offseason. At least once a week, if not more. We'll still hop on here on Extra Innings every once in a while with the cast of characters. Mackie will also join from time to time on the regular edition. All right, Judd, so here's what I learned, at least. We were both kind of in different areas of the Twins locker room today where Dave St. Peter was giving comments. You had Derek Falvey giving comments. Jeremy Zoll, the new GM of the Twins, was giving comments promoted from within. So here's what I know. Here's what I gleaned from conversations with now new team president Derek Falvey. So I told you guys that I had been hearing this been rumbling about for the last few months, especially towards the end of summer, that this was going to be something that probably does come down the pike. And I know you kind of heard similar stuff that Dave St. Peter might be, eventually not phasing himself out, but stepping down from the role as team president, moving on in his life, and that Derek Falvey's been the one that might be the one who becomes the next team president. So Falvey basically admitted a little bit of a timeline here of this was first broached again this summer, that he thought about moving in or was internally discussed as a replacement for Dave St. Peter. And Falvey and him kind of strategize how this looks. Dave has his fingerprints on a lot of the things outside of the diamond, right, Judd, with ticket sales and marketing and TV contracts. Business. Big of the business things, not necessarily the baseball stuff, but the business things. And then some of that got put on hold from what I gathered when the announcement of the Pohlads decision to sell the Twins that, hold on here, let's assess what the right move is, because keep in mind, new owners that come into this team can, have their own president, have their own GM, have their own manager or structure of how they want baseball to operate. Everyone. Yes, it usually is what happens. You fire everybody.
No question.
So instead, the Twins feel that this move of promoting Derek Falvey to president, who has inner workings of obviously the baseball operations department, but also can lean on other people to help navigate the things that Dave St. Peter was so good at, is actually going to be a beneficial thing in the long-term process of acquiring a new ownership and acquiring a sale, that Derek is the one that's going to be familiar with this. Dave St. Peter will still be involved in a different role throughout the 2025 season. So it's not like today or Dave St. Peter's 2-week notice was put in today by any means.
Right.
But Derek Falvey will be stepping into the team president role. It's been something that's been in the works, and it's going to be a little bit interesting. We'll get into the Jeremy Zoll stuff later on, but I guess your just initial reaction, Judd, to the switch basically of Derek Falvey to president and Dave St. Peter kind of stepping into a new leadership role.
So I think you and Doogie and Royce had all talked about this being a potential, and we didn't know timing. Obviously, the sale thing did change things. Now, I think a lot of people, well, I shouldn't say a lot. I think the key strategic people with the Twins knew about the sale probably. Obviously, we did not. I can't say I'm shocked because you guys sort of warned me. I can say that I will, and I asked Falvey about this today, I will reiterate that I'm a little skeptical of taking on both jobs, and that's a lot. But you are correct. I think the most important thing to point out is this is not going to be a quick transition. And even when Dave does at some point in time in the first quarter, I believe we're making a very business thing. First quarter of 2025, when Falvey becomes the president of the team, Dave is going to stay as a strategic advisor. I talked to him today about this off to the side because one of my main things is TV. Like this TV thing's a huge deal. And no offense, but I don't think Derek Falvey would have any real clue beyond being told, hey, the games are on or not on. Dave played a key role there. Dave made it very clear he is going to be staying on for quite a while in that transition. So this is very, I guess at the end of the day, Dex, and I don't mean this in a smart ass way, this is a very Twinsy thing, which is they've got Derek Falvey's going to be in charge of the business operations, but Dave's staying there to sort of hold his hand because there are some things that I don't think Derek is at this point probably qualified. Like it would be like having Dave go run baseball ops, right? Like Dave knows a lot about baseball ops, but I don't know that he's totally qualified. So it's going to be a very Twinsy transition. And I do think on the important things, i.e. TV, Dave is going to be very involved basically until the poll lads sell. And I also asked Dave when I think you were in the scrum talking to Falvey, I asked Dave about his transition, like how important are you in the sale? And he said the poll lads have asked me to stay on there because the sale needs facilitators and Dave knows everything. So I don't think you're going to see Dave St. Peter in any way, shape, or form divorced from the Twins in any meaningful sort of way until the sale is complete. And then I think this sets Dave up. He's 57, so he's not old. He's got, like he talked about, a second chapter or a third. But this is definitely a repositioning of the organization for the sale in some ways, Dex. But as you pointed out, they could fire Falvey tomorrow. Like if they buy the team tomorrow, a new group. But Dave, I think this is almost a good transition because now he's not going to be part of a sale and then he's president and then he's fired too. So it actually, I think it's advantageous for Dave, who is very much going to stay involved, especially with key things. And until we see Falvey operate this thing, I mean, I'm just curious because he's been a baseball guy. Now he's going to be a business guy. A lot of these guys are, and Kevin O'Connell is a control freak. I like the guy. He's a control freak, right?
Yep.
Like we've covered guys. These guys by their nature are control freaks. So can you divorce yourself and let Jeremy Zoll do all of the work? Or are you going to still be involved? And if you're involved with that, how are you involved in the business? A lot of questions to be answered. How about that?
Yeah, that's a good point. Falvey kind of discussed when he was in Cleveland, Shapiro, I believe, I don't think he was president of, he was president, right? He became the president of the Cleveland, at the time, Indians, while also still being like this kind of sports executive savvy guy that could obviously still build and be part of baseball operation decisions. So Falvey observed that from afar, and he thinks that's beneficial. And I still think he'll probably have to, it's just very interesting because I don't know if if my role was to be in baseball operations and building the best baseball team and cultivating staffs and cultivating research to make the best team possible, I don't know if I was in Falvey's shoes that I would like to be on more of the business side. Now, he did admit that he has actually been part of those type of decisions, those off the field business-like decisions for the last few years. So some of that, he said, is really nothing new to me and not something that I'm not capable of learning. But when it comes to a new TV deal, when it comes to ticket sales and initiatives, when it comes to those branding things that I believe Dave St. Peter in the shadows was really good at, we have hammered, we have hammered this organization for right or wrong reasons a lot over the last few years and mostly over the last 6 weeks. And very rarely, if ever, has this show at least put blame on the decision makings that Dave St. Peter has done or that he has made. It doesn't really. Dave is very smart, is what I'm trying to say, and he's very capable of what he's been able to do the last 20 years in this role. And I just don't know if a guy like Falvey is. I'm not saying it's the dumbest thing you can do. I'm just very curious to see how he adapts to that role, man, because it's a lot. That's such a different spot.
And Dave, so to go back, to backtrack, so I go back with Dave to 89. he and I were interns in the North Star's PR department. He much more savvy than me, not surprising. And his background is in PR. Now he left when his internship got done. I want to say shortly thereafter, sometime around 90. His first job with the Twins, I think he interned, but he also ran a pro shop. So there were back in the day Twins pro shops where they sold merchandise and their Twins goods, and he ran one of those. And he ascended up the ladder fairly quickly, because to your point, he was smart. But the most important thing with Dave was his background always was in PR. So he had a full understanding, and this is where I give him credit, because, you know, we've been friendly and friends for a long time, but he got it. He got the fact that at times we ripped the team. Yeah. And I mean, he did take a bit, you know, the TV things have always sort of involved him. And this past summer, as he will admit, was a disaster. You know, their games, you can't watch their games, and they're taking off the cable, the biggest cable carrier in the state. And Dave always understood, you know, through the good and bad times, he always understood that it was the media's job and fans to be passionate. But that takes some thick skin. And when things got bad, lots of times it was Dave who would have to address it. And that's not fun, but he did it. So my question with Derek is, you know, Derek deals in baseball-y things, and he tries to be as smooth of talker as possible. But the reality is, when the bleep hits the fan, like from a business standpoint, or your fans are mad,
yeah,
the double talk only goes so far before people say, okay, that's enough of that. Tell me what the hell, right? So, yeah, I just, without passing complete judgment, do I love this move on the surface? No. Do I think that Falvey is going to have to trust people below him left and right? Yes. But yeah, Dave was really good. And this is not to say he did not make mistakes. He did.
Right. Yeah.
But with that being said, he was really good at understanding that, you know, I mean, the dude was on Twitter, got torched on Twitter, right? Our own Ross Brendel, every time a game wasn't on, would tweet about it and tag Dave. And I never heard Dave. Dave never called me. As far as I know, he didn't call our bosses. Nobody ever called and said, hey, you know, stop it, right?
Yeah.
So is Falvey going to be... Is he going to just pay no attention to it? Is he going to get on Twitter? I highly doubt it. Because, you know, the thing is, if there's nowhere to vent, unless you're doing a great job all the time, I don't know how this works now. And part of what made Dave good, and this depends, of course, on who buys the team, but Dex, part of what made Dave good was, you know, the poll ads are as Teflon gets, unapproachable.
Yeah.
They're not on Twitter. You know, Joe and Jim before him and Carl, like, okay, you can vent about them. And, you know, Carl tried to contract the team. Does anyone know if Carl really cared?
Yeah, right.
But Dave cared. So now is Derek going to care? Is Derek going to pick up the ball? I mean, does he have time to? There's just a lot of questions that this brings up. But if the Twins are going to become even less personable, if that's the correct word, through this, I don't know this is a good time to become less personable. But because Dave sticks around, he probably will continue to take the shrapnel.
Yeah. Let's get into the Jeremy Zoll part of this. So Jeremy was the assistant GM, vice president and assistant GM. He has been with the Twins for some years now. I believe got here in 2018. He was their kind of minor league operations department. He signed a bunch of the minor league players. And then during the pandemic season, the shortened one in 2020, where the entire minor league season got wiped out and the major league games, I believe, just went to a 50-game schedule. He kind of had to step in to uncharted territories with the big league club and kind of had a fast ascension of helping them out with, again, player development, all that type of stuff. And when they let go of Thad Levine about a month ago, I got the sense from talking to people in the organization that they were not going to go with an external hire. They were going to promote from within. They were going to take some of these guys and just figure out who wants the title of GM. I was wondering if they're even going to make someone the actual title of GM. Jeremy Zoll's the one that gets it. He was with the Dodgers. He was with the Angels. He's kind of risen up here, and now he is the GM. Now he still initiates conversations when it comes to free agency and trades. Derek Falvey will still have final say. Like, This is not even like Derek Falvey is now also out of baseball operations and out of decision making. No, he will still heavily be involved in decision making. I don't know if you're going to see Falvey as much. And fans don't see this, so I really shouldn't say we. I don't know if you're going to see Derek Falvey in Rocco's office after every game, like it has usually kind of been for the better part of his entire tenure here. Even Falvey kind of recognized, like, now that I'm president, I don't know if that's always the best look. Does that mean now it's Jeremy Zoll going in there more? Does that even mean, you know what, let's just forget and not have to have 7 brain trusts in a manager's office? That's a whole different can of worms too. But Jeremy Zoll now be the new GM of the Twins. And there's, the buzzwords I kept hearing today were we have internal options and we have a plethora of people that are very capable of handling all these decisions like Jeremy Zoll. So yes, there's other people that will also take away some of the things that Derek Falvey was maybe and Thad Levine were responsible for. And they're just, again, going to use their internal staff that the Twins love to do and promote from within. And they believe that will still give them the success they need to hit all those boxes when it comes to player signing, trades, and movement.
So is your observation that Dave sticks around to hold Derek's hand on that? Derek then holds Zoll's hand? Like, how does this shake out? And are you more surprised now that Thad Levine is gone? Like, to me, this would have been the perfect, hey, dude, you're really GM now. Like, You're really, like, run the baseball thing. I guess I'm more surprised today that Thad didn't stick around or wasn't asked to, because if anybody was prepared for this job, unless there was a philosophical difference between Derek and Thad, and that might have been, I don't know that, but unless there was something between them that had soured, if the announcement today was Derek Falvey is basically being kicked upstairs, Thad is going to remain GM, and oh, by the way, he's really going to be the GM, I think I'd feel a lot more comfortable, Dex, than I do. Like, I think I'd have a lot fewer questions than I do right now.
Yeah, that's the weird part, is how much is Falvey going to step away from his baseball operations role to learn some of the business side of things? I guess we're in a wait and see mode on that. Yep. And then is Jeremy Zoll kind of leading the assembled team that is there already to orchestrate a lot of the player movement decisions that involved trades and free agency? And, I know we joked at the top, like, Travis d'Arnaud signed with the Angels. You saw, the Angels actually are weirdly enough, like, shaking up their roster early on. They traded for Jorge Soler. They got Travis d'Arnaud. But it looks like at least there's some type of offseason that has started here with baseball, which I think, by the way, is great news after the last few years, which have been terrible off seasons. But
Twins won't be involved.
But the Twins have next to no money to be involved in that. And I don't know, because they're gonna have to get creative as it is. Like, they're gonna have very limited resources, and if they are gonna trade the Vasquez and the Paddocks of the world, I still don't know who they're gonna be in on and how many guys are really gonna be picking up the phone to try to make their roster better with free agency and external additions.
From what we heard today, I don't think basically until springtime anything's changing. Like, I think that Falvey is apprenticing under Dave, who's still going to be there. I guess, again, to go back to my point from before, though, I guess the only thing that really confuses me is if you're like Zoll, Adler, or Levine can run this from a baseball ops. I'm like, oh, I'm in on that. Unless Thad had me completely fooled, and I've been fooled before. He's bright. He'd been doing the job for a long time. He had gotten interviews to run some baseball ops departments. So I feel like there's more to that story now about him being gone. I mean, no offense to Zoll, but he's 34. He's worked for Falvey really like Levine. When Levine and Falvey started, it felt like it was pretty, Derek had the upper hand, but it felt like it was fairly even, Declan. And, Zoll has been below Derek the entire time and will remain that way. So I guess I'm a little bit surprised by that, but I would expect this is very status quo for a while.
Yeah.
And I guess my other question too is, where is the sales process? Like, I know we don't think it's going to be soon, and I know that it probably won't be, but all of that being said, I will continue to pound the drum. I don't think a sales process plays out publicly. I think
Well, it's
trades
not,
do.
yeah.
You know, I think executive shakeups do. But I don't think this is going to be one where we're going to get months and months of, okay, here's what's going on now. Here's what's going on. When you hire a firm to handle the sale, part of what they're experts, just like
Yep.
we didn't find out, part of what they're experts in is keeping it quiet.
Yeah.
So, and as you found out, like you
As
asked
I
3
found out,
questions, is it Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday? They said, it's all of them. See you later, Declan.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of unanswered questions here that no one with the Twins is going to answer publicly.
Yes, and that I think what's probably going to happen with the sale process is like it'll be 99% of the way done. We'll get a Jeff Passenbaum, right? We'll get a Passenbaum that the poll ads are expected to sell to so and so.
Correct.
A deal is about to be finalized. Because I mean we've reached out and I've reached out personally and tried to get some information just on very much background and got no comment, and we can't comment on this at the time. And and Derek Falvey even kind of said like, I can't really comment on things because they have hired a firm to do so. So that is very of a hush hush.
Yes.
I don't know where that ownership sale is. I mean, they've clearly feel that Derek Falvey being the team president speaks better and speaks more loudly than Dave St. Peter being the president in terms of the sale too, which I find very interesting.
Well, I think I can explain that. I think what you're saying is right, but I think that what they're doing is, I think that Dave is loyal to the poll ads, and I think he's going to help them through the sale process. He's 57. He's been doing this forever. And so I think I think in their mind, this all has to do, at least somewhat, Dex, with positioning the franchise and also the price points.
Right.
Like Thad Levine leaves. I bet he was pulling down some nice coin, right? So now he's off the books, which matters. Derek Falvey, I'm sure, gets a raise, but he's now going to hold 2 jobs. Dave, I mean, the way I see this is once the sale's done, Dave is out the door. Like, unless the new people say, please stay, I think he's gone. So he's gone as far as a salary goes. He's also, I think in something this nuanced, Declan, I think that there's something to be said for, like, Dave works for the poll ads. Like, he's going to help with the sale. A guy who's been around an ownership group that long, unless he really wants to, very rarely, I think, transitions to a new group. So this all sort of makes sense, but I think it's all tied into the sale, and not just a loyalty thing, but also how it's going to be structured. But again, we're guessing because there's a lot we don't know, and there's a lot we won't find out. Like, we are not going to get a list of, I don't think, here are the 5 people bidding on the Twins, and 4 of them are from Minneapolis, St. Paul. I think it's going to be an outside source. I think it's going to be some type of, so there's just a lot, I think, that happened today that we're trying to unpack. I don't know that a ton of it has to do with baseball.
Well, I mean, look at all the moves that have happened thus far. They blew out their hitting coach. They hire a new hitting coach. They leave their TV distributor to go to Major League Baseball.
Yep.
They now have a new president. I mean, it's been 6 weeks since the regular season ended, and I just listed 4 pretty major things that have happened to an organization.
Yeah, the coach is at the bottom of,
yes,
like that. I mean, that's like, okay, it's an assistant coach, but you're right. The TV thing is huge.
Yep.
And I asked Dave today, I said, do you have any feeling, especially from the direct to consumer end, do you have any feeling for what you're going to make? Because, I mean, keep in mind, I think 2 years back, the check that they eventually got with bonuses from, at the time, Diamond Sports Group was $60 million.
Yeah.
I've just estimated that it probably went down to, like, let's say 35 to 40. And they cut payroll largely based on that. And he said, no, we really, like, he's like, we've got some modeling, Padres and the Rockies, I think. Yep. But he's like, we really don't know. And so this is a very interesting sale. Because ordinarily, you'd go in with all of the information, right? And you would say, okay, here is our regional TV contract. And the prospective owner would probably be like, oh, great, okay. Can't even do that now. So I think we're trying to snoop around a situation that we don't know a lot about. But back to my point, I think a lot of it has nothing to do with the actual game of baseball.
No, it's very bizarre. And the timing of the ownership sale. Yeah. I don't know. Would you put better money? It happens after opening day right now. Like your gut, not even money, just your gut. Do you even have a gut feel of when this sale could be finalized? I mean, it took, and by the way, I see the example with Baltimore, that's
real quick. Yeah.
That went quickly. And I don't think that's the norm. I think that, you saw teams like the Angels pull out their sale, the Nationals, also I believe pulled out their bid. So
Yep.
This is going to be a long process, but it's just weird that all the things that we would like to be talking about in terms of a bad end of the season and a fresh start and opening free agency, and we have spent the better part of the last 6 weeks talking about inner organizational changes, business things that are, I'm not saying boring, 'cause they're very fun. I mean, this is great stuff to cover, and they're interesting.
But but they're not hot stove things.
No, it's not hot stove season. So
I don't have a guess. I don't have a guess. And I have noticed that I don't know if you picked up on this today, but I've noticed that now people are saying if the poll ads sell.
Oh,
partially because I don't think they know. And I think that they know what you just broached about, the Nationals. They're on the market. They're not on the market.
Yeah.
So, I do think there's very few people in the organization who have a clue right now.
Right.
Which makes it difficult. But I don't have a feel because the only thing I have a feel for is we don't know jack.
Yeah.
We just don't know. Like we could say it's going to be a long time, but then it could be Baltimore. I mean, it could be.
Right.
But then it could be the Nationals, and they're not for sale anymore. No. So this is one where, because of the fact that the poll ads were able to keep this quiet for so long, and just FYI, I'm not buying their timeline. Yeah. I think it goes back farther than that.
Yeah, I got the sense that Derek Falvey was, when they were starting this process of him transitioning to president and talking with Dave, that happened early this summer, and then the sale got announced, and it was almost blindsided to them, which I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily believe that. That's just
do you really think that they decided I think they said it was June? I just don't know. This is one where we're going to get zero transparency.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, at the end of the day, total transparency is necessary, but it makes it really hard to discuss it.
Yes.
And to know what we're talking about as far as, I think today has a lot to do with what's going down. But is that mean that Derek Falvey is safe? Not necessarily. Does that mean, if they are bought, someone could come in and say, Derek, you're a pretty good baseball guy. Lousy businessman. We're firing you as president of the business side. And so, the only thing I believe is that Dave St. Peter is tied to the poll ads. He's been with them forever. He's going to help with the sale. And then he's probably going to, I would hope, as a friend, get a nice big check and leave Dodge.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can be safely, okay, this is how this ordinarily works. But beyond that, I am, from a baseball perspective, Dex, the one thing is I think it's too bad if it didn't work, or why it didn't work with Thad Levine now.
Yeah.
Because I'd feel a lot better if that dude had just been named to the real GM job today.
Yeah. That whole thing is very strange. I guess we'll maybe figure out more as time passes.
Sniff around, Dex. Sniff around.
I will. I'll have to start sniffing around on it. I know you, on your Substack, you were sniffing around the day, and you'll have a little bit some updates on your Substack. I know. A little cheap.
I'm going to be doing an update on the TV thing. I'm going to be doing an update on the TV thing, because I also asked, how close are we to direct to consumer pricing?
Oh,
the Cardinals just now the Cardinals are still with Diamond, but they just did a direct to consumer deal, I think this past week, $20. So that's the same as the Padres and the Rockies.
Yes.
That's what I'm looking for, but the Twins say that they will have an announcement soon on that, but it has not been decided. But I think the direct to consumer thing, especially for young fans, is huge.
Yes.
For guys like me, put it on cable. But for guys in their 20s, 30s, I think direct to consumer eventually, and not just the Twins, I think eventually the Wolves, the Wild can do their own thing too. I did see today, just quickly, that FanDuel announced that you are going to be able to get NHL and NBA games for like the Wolves and the Wild on a per game basis, like $6.99 per game.
Huh.
If you want it. So instead of like a year-long sub,
Yeah.
like per game.
Interesting.
Seems a little bit pricey, but I mean, some folks might like it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, hit the like button, subscribe button here on SKOR North Twins Show. This was an extra innings episode. Any other breaking news things happen, we'll be ready to talk about it. We'll still have our State of the Twins. I still have a free agent list that I would love to get to. In fact, I already am seeing it. I see other names on this list being bandied about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'd like to talk to you guys then. Yeah.
Forget the Twins. I'd just like to see the list or hear the list.
You just made the list.
I want to talk about hot stove baseball.
Yes, that's what we're going to do. Whether we're cooking imaginary food or not, we will be doing that on the hot stove season. So stick around for that list coming up, maybe even later this week here on the SKOR North Twins Show. Appreciate everyone listening, watching. Hit the like button, subscribe button. Be talking at you soon.